my cellar one more time. As you probably noticed by now, it's always cold in my cellar. I have a ranch with a basement, full basement. And so it's very nice and toasty in the winter once the ground equalizes. And it's icy cold in the summer because of the AC. So I'll dress like this all summer long. Okay, let's go with this. Got a bunch of things to talk about tonight. You're spot on with new games not being play tested. So much of this new stuff is a lot of icing and no cake. I like that. You're right. I have a system I've run for a number of years that is pure game metrics, with all the details left to open play, no character classes, defined spells, abilities, or what have you. What is interesting that once the players get beyond the hurdle of what can I do, the creativity is endless. You're right, and that's it. Rules are constraints. Now, that's not a bad thing. We have to have constraints on, no, you can't have your Babylonian chariots fly. All right, we have to have some kind of constraints. But in role-playing, the fewer constraints, the greater the ability to unleash the unfettered imagination. Boy, was Appendix N my reading list for a couple of years. Loved most of what I read, but not everything was a gem to me. Overall, it is a list of fun stuff and great inspiration. And, there's a lot of stuff in there I didn't care for either. So obviously I didn't put it on there. But that's what it was supposed to be. Hey, if you read enough of these books, you might get an idea of what we're doing here and what you can do with yours. As I said last time, that's all Appendix N was. It was to finally answer, wow, man, how do you guys do this stuff? Where do you get these ideas? And in an honest answer, I don't know, but this is the stuff I've read. That's what it was in the beginning. That's all it was. Gary and I literally started making a list. Anyway, all right. But yeah, some of it's a little stodgy. I didn't care for it. Thanks for the video. Great to see you in daylight. Hope everyone is well. Everyone is well, and as you can see, I'm back at my favorite time of the day, night. Glad you're having fun with Age of Wonders. Number 4. And I am trying to figure it out. In regards to AI, I use it for extensive brainstorming. GPT-4, the latest generation, is very smart at this. It can spot holes in my ideas, and it has twice given me supremely genius ideas. But it can't make an idea on its own. It's usually going off of what I already made and improving on it. Another scenario I used AI for was simulating Q&A with a panel. I was in a software competition for innovation, and we had to defend our work with panelists. I asked the AI what kind of questions would a panelist ask about our work, and used it for my team to prepare. It helped tremendously. We did wonderfully well, won second place, and they wanted to make a patent out of our work. Whoa, sounds like thumbs up. Patents mean money. Good for you. I'm not saying that AI doesn't have a place. Not at all. I'm saying that particularly with AI art, if that's what it is, it should be clearly labeled. Otherwise, if it's original art, we shouldn't have to assume that it might be label AI created, and then by not labeling original stuff, we'll know. Pay artists. Don't be a cheap ass and use all AI stuff. No. Nope. it won't win you any fans in the industry, and it's, in the buying industry, and it certainly won't ever get you any help in the production side of the industry. When you get in a jam, no. All right, and the thing with the questions from panel, that's good, and that's what AI can do. It can help you prepare for what questions you might be fielded, what problems might come up. That's a genius, brilliant application. I wrote my first game in 1986. I've been a full-time hobby designer for 25 years. One of the biggest pieces of advice I highly advocate, besides everyone should hire an editor, came from a film producer. It was, always be willing to put your most cherished idea on the cutting room floor. As you say, just because I like something, no one else might. Get feedback. Decide up front if you're designing a game just for you or others to play. If the latter, don't let your ego get in the way. Absolutely. And you find out mistakes by playtesting. I've known games that have been playtested for 2 years before they were published. And when they were published, they were nice and polished. And I've seen games that obviously were hardly playtested at all somehow get published and be full of indecipherable rules. Okay. Tim, love the show. Thank you for staying engaged in the hobby. Here's my question. Okay. What's your view on the evolution of encumbrance? The latest vogue is slot-based, and in many groups, as I understand, there's no encumbrance tracking at all. From a game design and balance standpoint, how important is encumbrance? Very. Is it optional? Sort of. Is it too finicky and should be ignored? No. Okay. I'll go back on those. How important is it? How important is it? Again, that's one of those limits that has to be a limitation that has to be applied to the players and affects them. You can't find, forget what you've seen on the pirate movies with these great big, 3.5, 4 foot long, 2 foot wide, 3 foot deep chests bound in iron, full of gold. Come on, man, take a forklift, pick that up. Or at least 4 guys. At least. Think about the volume. Think about the weight. And think about trying to walk in sand with that. Because, you're going across the beach to there. Anyway. I believe, I don't keep a running tally. Like that. I don't do that. I do common sense. And I don't really get in the player's business about it until I catch on or I decide, no, this is ludicrous. Common sense. You've got your standard stuff. All right, whatever your standard stuff is. 2 grappling hooks, 40 feet of rope, whatever iron rations, all this kind of stuff, whatever your stuff is. Now, in my world, I assume that by the time you get up into the middle ranges, which in my world is, 5th, 6th, 7th level, your stamina has increased to where your stuff hardly bothers you. But it is still stuff. However, I'm not going to make you weigh it all out. If you find a big 20-gallon barrel full of silver coins, well, yeah, that stuff weighs. And if it's you and 2 other people going to take it all with, or you and 7 other people going to take it all with, it's going to make a big difference. Because even in fantasy, you have to have some boundaries, some reality, some verisimilitude of reality. You don't go booking down, beating feet down the corridor with 300 pounds of gold on your shoulder. Doesn't happen. Not without, an 18 strength of some sort and a constitution of at least a 17. And I'd probably require an 18 for that too. Common sense. If you find a wood stove made of iron that's just amazing, it's magical, etc., and it also weighs 855 pounds, you'd be hard-pressed to convince me that you can strap that on your back and carry it home. All right? Common sense is how I look at encumbrance. Common sense. Which is why, in several adventures that I've written over the years, when they find the big haul, or a big haul, it's very often in silver, and sometimes in tubs and tubs and tubs of copper. Lots of, how do you carry it? If you didn't bring pack mules, and if you didn't know you were going to find it. So, yeah, encumbrance, I view encumbrance as a common sense thing. If you're looting a room in a palace and there's some 9-foot curtain rods made of silver and electrum, you're looting the queen's bedroom. Now, whether or not they're going to weigh a lot, they're going to weigh, but here's encumbrance of a different sort. Running around with 2 9-foot poles over your shoulder. So encumbrance isn't just, in my world, in my opinion, encumbrance isn't just weight, but it's also the bulkiness or the unwieldiness of carrying what it is you're trying to beat feet out of there with and turn to your advantage. I think it's important. I don't think you need to sit there with a heading machine. I think, everybody could pretty much agree, oh yeah, come on. You're going to carry that 300-pound boulder out of here on your back, and when we have to run, you're going to... No, That's when encumbrance slows you down, gives you negatives. That's why it's there. A limitation. This isn't the cartoons. You're not Asterisk or Hagar running out of the dungeon with a chest full of jewels and gems and gold coins. Running. I wonder if AI could survive the Tomb of Horrors. That's an interesting question. Interesting question. If somebody figures this out, please let me know. Thanks for the video. As always, just wondering, are you doing any public stuff soon? I know your health's a factor. My health's good. It's my state of mind that hates flying and all the hoops I have to jump through. That's why I quit going to Boston and quit going to Texas. I don't like to fly. Now, having said that, if somebody at a con said, oh, Tim, we'd love to have you here, and we'll give you some dollars to show up, and we'll put you up in a top flight place, et cetera, and make you a VIP, well, that'd be a different story. They did that once. A bunch of people out on the West Coast did that once. It was part of a thing that was for the and when they were going through the ampersand thing. doing anything public. Well, oddly enough, here in Cincinnati, there are very few places where they encourage gaming at the store. Now, there's a lovely place over in Waynesville, which is about a 30-minute drive from my house, if you know the back roads, which some are fun to drive, but some I wouldn't want to drive at night. Not until I was very familiar with them in the day. And they do it, but that's why I wouldn't want to drive back late at night down those roads after going over there. There used to be a game store that is no longer operating that used to have game nights for just about any game you could think of. And they squeezed, 2 and 3 games at a time into a tiny... Anyway, I digress. If there were places like that, I'd go and run a game every now and again, just for the fun of it. I'd run a Wheel of Blame. Yeah, I'd be interested in that. I feel okay. Don't walk long distances so great. Don't like to walk long distances, well then damn. As a longtime DM, I help how a brand new player can think out of the box, problem solving. So, the new guy came to a lever in the dungeon. It was obvious the lever was for producing a bridge across the chasm. The lever could go right, up, or left. I informed the new player, since he was new, most levers work one way. The other way may do something bad. He asked, "What's the lever made out of?" I answered, "Wood." He asked, "Can I look at which side of the lever is most worn?" Genius. We had no stupid perception roll. First time I've seen this. That's why I don't like perception rolls. I think they stunt players thinking. Oh, I'll just roll a dice. No, think, damn it. Think. That's what you're here to do. You're having fun thinking. Thinking can be fun. We're not talking to a third grader here. Oh, it make my head hurt. No. Think. In some of your videos, you mentioned that you use prayers for clerics instead of spells. How does that exactly work in game? Okay. Personally, I've always been a little hinky about the idea of clerics, which in our culture is, priests and rabbis and reverends, ministers, conjuring spells. Collecting batwing lace and, things like this. Now, I don't know exactly what makes me a little squeamish about this. Could be the fact all those years I went to Catholic school and was an altar boy all those years. Over the course of my life, I was raised Catholic. I became an agnostic while I was in the service and overseas. And then for a while I was an Episcopalian, and now I'm sort of an agnostic again. So, I don't like the idea of spells and conjuring and that. Plus, it is exactly what the scare back in the 80s was talking about. So, I got away from that. The things that do things listed in the book as spells, I simply treat as prayers. So you don't need any somatic elements. All you have to do is clear your mind and pray. And then, depending upon how good you are with your deity, how much mana or good juju or however you want to look at it, you have stored up, it works. Now, if you're going to start out as a first level cleric, I treat the clerics and their ability to advance in a slightly different way. When a cleric advances to a level that enables them to use a new level of spells, what the book calls spells, in my world, they know all the new prayers, because that's part of how they prove their worthiness to advance a level. That's how I do it in my world. Your mileage may vary. What this does is, in many circumstances, it almost, and I know this is sacrilege, it almost does away with the need of a magic user. Now, I don't use magic users as a pre-gen in my Wheel of Blame games, because magic users having to pick in advance what they think they're going to need, etc., is fine. But they have no idea what the wheel's going to give them, and so they have no way of, they're almost doomed to not have the right spells. So I don't use magic users. However, because the clerics have access to all those prayers, they become very important to the party. Now, how many prayers can they say in a day? Has a remarkable similarity to this the same number of how many spells of what levels they could say in a day, with the option of, if you have not used a third level slot yet, and you really want to, and you've used all your seconds, but you really want to say that second level prayer again, you can burn off the third level slot and say it. You don't get any change. It's a slot for slot, not level for level. And that's the way I do it. And I find it works really well in the Wheel of Blame, because the cleric now is not just the medic with the big red cross on his helmet, but now he's also a very valuable member of the party, being able to speak with animals and all those kinds of things besides that clerics can do. That's why I like it. I don't have anything against magic users, not at all. But I don't use them in the Wheel of Blame at all. Okay, another related to Appendix N. I was browsing my library recently, and I happened to find Jack Vance's Tales of the Dying Earth, the big tome with all 4 books. My God, I'm having so much fun reading it. I was a little hesitant to check it out, because every time I hear about Appendix N, they talk about the books like a D&D scavenger hunt, which is a shame. I'm glad I took the chance at it, because I'm enjoying it so much. Okay. If you haven't already, check out The Adventure Never Ends, a tabletop saga /time. Explores how tabletop role-playing games have fought their way through decades of trial by fire to emerge at the height of pop culture, now shaping and bringing together millions of lives through storytelling. Film takes behind-the-curtain look at a community of fans and creators, as well as youth programs who use tabletop role-playing games to promote socialization, team building, and empathy. Well, I'm not even sure who its play was, on YouTube or whatever. I'd not heard of the film. It's interesting. I wasn't approached. I haven't even heard anything about it. So I'd certainly like to see it. As an editor, do you prefer the purple prose, rules hidden in the text style of Castles and Crusades, or something more usable at the table, a reference work with not much thought given to if it's enjoyable to a reader, like Old School Essentials? Personally, I love the Siege system, but I find Castles and Crusades to be borderline unusable as a rule set. The Siege engine is something I can easily take and adopt to other games, but table usable layout exists on a book-by-book basis. Well, I don't want to bang on Castles and Crusades. Those guys are my friends. And all in all, overall, in the big picture, it's a pretty interesting system. And Siege is a great combat system. I prefer a minimal of words in favor of sterling charts and tables. Now, I know in the early days of TSR, we were kind of the other way. Lots and lots of words, and we were kind of crappy on tables. But I've come to realize that something that you can reference right now is also something that will end up sticking in your head easier than something you had to go look up every damn time. All right? Surprisingly, that's not going to make you remember it any better. Usually because of the negative vibes going on, because I got to look up that damn thing again. No, I did purple prose, okay? I edited Gary. And so, no, I'm more for clarity and usable charts. And there are some charts that are truly works of genius in their clarity. They can convey a lot of information easily apprehended. Is that right? Appreciate it. Easily. Anyway, easy to understand. So, no, I did enough purple prose. Thank you very much. I can still write in High Guy Gaxian. The longer I don't do it, though, it'd take me probably another extra 10 minutes to get back into practice. But I'm sure I could. God, I did enough. I edited enough back then. You got to find the rule system that has the most things you like about it. And then cobble together, knock the corners off of whatever, the parts you don't like about the system, but you like it overall, and either plug something else in or jigger it around until it's something you like and it fits. All right, on a similar topic to countdown narratives in RPGs, have you ever used the trope of a splinter in the heart, slow-acting poison race against time? That is, for example, a PC has to get to the antidote magic fountain in time to survive a basilisk sting or slowly turn to stone. How would I handle it? Okay, I haven't yet, but here's how I would. Number one, it'd have to be in a campaign that you are keeping meticulous track of campaign time. All right? So if you get together with your group on a given night as a DM, how long would it have taken? You have to measure these things. You certainly have to keep track of every time that you come out to overnight out of the dungeon or overnight in the dungeon or whatever. But then you have to take into account traveling time and things like that in the campaign, going from the dungeon to the town to, enjoy your loot for a week or whatever. You would have to be meticulous up to the point of the basilisk sting, meticulous in your bookkeeping on time. A whole lot of people aren't. I'm one of them. I wouldn't do it unless it served a very important plot point. And I haven't thought of it yet because I haven't written that plot. But I wouldn't. Just me. And certainly not without a very meticulous. Because you can't say, oh, it's going to kill you in 6 weeks. No. I mean, you could. Some exotic, it's going to worm its way to your heart and you'll be dead. Okay. Now everybody's going to have a slow-moving bullet traveling into their heart. Can you bring some backstory about how the Githyanki and Githeri came about? No, I can't. I had to look it up. That's Forgotten Realms. That's Ed Greenwood. And Ed Greenwood wrote a lot of what became titled Forgotten Realms before D&D came out. So if you want to know that, I'd go find Ed Greenwood's web page. I'm sure he has one. And see. Or Google those terms and see what's been written about them. I know nothing about Forgotten Realms. As a DM, please explain the game mechanics for this scenario. How would you orchestrate an encounter battle from a horse and carriage trying to get away from hordes of oncoming enemies? The crown jewels now in your possession have left you on the run. A daring escape from the evil stronghold put you in... Okay. Yada, yada, yada. Well... If I were going to allow for this possibility in the game, that was part of the scenario, that was part of the campaign, I would have to map it out in advance. I would have to map out that area of the world, the campaign world, with the available roads. And then I have to figure out which ones are well kept and which ones are full of ruts and potholes. And then I would have to assign probabilities to each quality or class of the road for busting a wheel or hobbling and maiming a horse, overturning, whatever. Then I would have to make out a chart or a table for how well the pursuers were able to keep up. Then I would have to allow for the fact that those being pursued might do something to frustrate those back. In other words, I wouldn't do it. But that's what I would do if somebody had a gun to my head and said, do it or we're going to shoot your pinball machine. Then I guess, I would. Again, I would have to, if the carriage managed to make whatever arbitrary decision you made down the road and didn't spring an axle, spring a wheel, break an axle, whatever, maim a horse. Now we have to make a random roll for the posse. Now, unless the posse's also riding wagons, they're going to be faster. They're going to catch them. They're going to catch it. But along the way, every so often, roll the dice. Nope, haven't caught me yet. Roll the dice. Haven't caught me yet. And as it goes on, the chances of them catching you are greater and greater and greater because your horses are pulling something and theirs just have riders on them. So eventually they're going to catch you. Unless some amazing thing happens. And as a DM, you can decide if they roll a natural 20 at some point in time, this will happen. Well, wonderful. And, They ran into a prairie dog village and you didn't, so their horses all broke legs. That's one way to do it. But it'd be a lot of work. You have to want to know all the things you were going to do with it. All right, let's see, make sure I get them all. All right, I did that page. I did that page. I just finished that page. Okay, here we go. You've spoken before about Warhammer and Games Workshop as a predatory company. In the same mind, I'm of the same mind, but I was wondering if you could share your opinion. All right, and this is what it is, my opinion. The very first time that I had dealings with Games Workshop, I was at TSR and they made overtures. And something about it rubbed me the wrong way. But I wanted to do their White Dwarf magazine, and I agreed to distribute it in the States for them. I thought a lot of what they did was derivative and copycat. My opinion. Warhammer, on the other hand, were dictatorial sons of bitches. And I guess it's all the same thing. The whole concept of Warhammer pissed me off. The only thing that's dumb as far as a game concept that's ever been done that dumb was the Wizards in the early days of the card game when you had to give up your deck if you lost. Well, Warhammer went a step further, and I don't know if they still do this, but this is what turned me off on them for years. They come out with the official army list for 2019, and these are all the units. And every damn year it seemed like something that you spent all the last 2 years buying, cleaning, painting, mounting, all of a sudden now is worthless because it's no longer part of the official army list. So you spent the money and they don't give a shit because now you gotta, if that was a unit of light archers and you can't use them anymore for whatever damn reason they had, well, now you got to buy more light archers, new light archers, and paint them. And that's what I didn't like about the system. The other thing is the people that I met here in Cincinnati that are Warhammer enthusiasts are stuck up, unfriendly, and suffer from complexes too numerous to mention. But that's just my opinion. All right, now, 2 new things. Surprise, surprise, surprise. New TSR has filed for bankruptcy. Well, I guess that's what happened when you're run by a slime ball who plays slime ball rules, his own. What that's going to do to the Dungeon Hobby Shop, I don't know. Probably nothing. He's got so many sham companies going on. I even heard that having filed for bankruptcy, he's taking new TSR products, scrubbing the logos off, and trying to sell them elsewhere, which I don't think you can do in bankruptcy. But I don't know. I just heard that. But the fact that Lanasa is going to go down the tubes with that, I hope he lost his shirt. I don't know what's going to happen in the hobby shop. If Lanasa got the hell out of the hobby shop and sold his interest to Ernie and Duck and somebody else, I'd have no issues. As long as Lanasa's connected with the museum, I'll have nothing to do with it. Won't donate anything to it, though I had planned to. Okay, now, I did something today that was a real treat. I went and this is something I recommend to all of you. Go look at something familiar through the eyes of a child. Because we talk about the new people at the game, at the table, and how they think of things in different ways. In that sense, they are children growing in to be mature gamers, but they're going through the childlike stages. Well, here at the Crone Conservatory in Cincinnati, every so often, like once a year or once every other year, I don't remember how many years it was. Anyway, they have a butterfly show, 26 or 28 different species of butterflies, all in a big enclosed area. It's so popular, they only sell so many tickets for each hour. You have to reserve your time in advance. That's how many people love to go. And it's well worth it, I think. We have a nice conservatory. So anyway, I took my 8-year-old great-granddaughter, the one I've been doing the tutoring with. And I said, all right, let's go see the butterflies. And, she wasn't all that keen at the beginning, but I started pumping her up for it. And so we got there, and she's standing around in line. We're waiting for our 1 o'clock time or whatever it was. And then she saw some blue, and I don't know, they didn't identify all the species, but these brilliant blue, very large butterflies fluttering on the other side of the window, and all of a sudden she clicked on. I had to pry her out of there 55 minutes later. She didn't want to leave, until finally the volunteer came in and rang the bell, the old schoolmarm's bell, and said that please, everybody's time was coming, it was 50 minutes. Everybody was coming to an end, and rather than everybody rush out at once, could, people start moving out, because they airlock you. They airlock you in, mesh chain fences, and the principle's the same. They airlock you out. Before you go into the airlock, when you're leaving, you have to turn around so they make sure there's none of them sticking on you, clinging to you. You get into the airlock, you do it again, they make sure, and then out you go. Beautiful. It was wonderful. All the hundreds and hundreds of butterflies floating around. But what was beautiful was watching her. She wasn't all that interested coming in. And man, oh man, they gave us little construction paper, landing pads, they called them. You could go up to the butterflies, and I figured out how to do it the last time Cheryl and I went a few years ago. If you touch them on their front 2 legs, never touch their wings, and get them to grip and then lift them up, they'll grab on. And so I showed a couple of people that were there, and I showed my granddaughter how to do it. And so she was going around and catching them and giving them to other smaller children, and trying to see how many different, and when I say catch, they never touched them. Just get them on their pad. She had them land on her shirt and on her wrist, and we take butterflies for granted. Occasionally we go, oh, damn it, there's one smashed on the front of your car. And, maybe we mourn a moment. But look at butterflies through the eyes of a precocious 8-year-old and see if they aren't really marvelous, magical creatures all in their own. That's all I got. Dodata Govi. Hello, and welcome to my cellar.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Last man around when them rates went down. Called it Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard's brain. ESR and fantasy, collection of micro armory. Titan with tramp under a tree, high as could be. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Curmudgeon.